welcome to Toffee TV. Now, Baz, in my pursuit of trying to get good quality videos out, I asked our Twitter followers at Toffee TV ESC, not Toffee TV 1, Toffee TV ESC, because everything is now Toffee TV EFC.
You have to give it back to Martinez when he went, didn't we?
Yeah, we give the
Took
one back.
With us, the one.
For basic things to talk about, because there's a lack of things to talk about, but we don't want to be like negative people and go, where was all the signings? Because, like, as we've already done on another video, we are prepared to be quite patient, and that sort of falls in what we are going to talk about. And people are like, when's the signings? Where the signings? What this? Talk about that. Now, yeah, you can talk about like things and people and stuff, but one of the things that jumped out at me, and a couple of people said this, was about expectations, about managing expectations, about what are our expectations of this season. And I think that's a really good thing to talk about, because there are 3 weeks, less than 3 weeks till the season. We've got a couple of weekends to go.
You've got the Dresden Cup, you've got Espanyol at home, and then it's Tottenham.
Yeah. So, there you go. So, there's no players really in yet, although, that can change.
Like that.
Could be one in before we finish this video, who knows? Not saying there is. Just an example. But the manager's come in, he's come in during the summer, so obviously that makes his job straight away, hard. Because he's coming in straight away, he's having to look at players, he's having to look at them on the drip as well, because he's got players coming back from European Championships, different stages. Got Funes Mori being in South America, but he wasn't in South America, he was in North America because he's in America. So he's looking at players at different times. He's got a lot of the kids to look at as well, because there's a good emerging bunch of kids coming through as well. There's players who've been ingrained at the club that have left the club, so there's a lot of transition anyway at the club, and then there's a new manager who's got to keep his eye on all of them. Now, I think that for me that makes his job a little bit harder, because he's got to look at everyone, hasn't he, on their own merits. We spoke about the Barnsley game, and we spoke about how he's got to give McGibbon a look at. He's got to look at this player, he's got to look at that player. I mean, Darren Gibson got a 2-year contract, as a first teamer, more than likely, so we can get a good look at him, and so that we've got players in. He's give Conor Grant a new contract. He's give a couple of the younger goalies a new contracts, so you can get a good feeling for all these players. So do you think that straight away means that expectations should be lower at the club for the coming season?
No, because for the simple reason, I forget who's going to come through the door. We'll be doing another video on the expectations once the signings are in, I'm quite sure. But as we stand today, no, why should I believe firmly that this manager, we massively underperformed last season. I think there's a lot of good footballers in Everton's squad. I still think it's shy of a few places where it needs extra quality. So I think he's going to take the club up 2 or 3 places regardless of who he brings in, just by simplifying what we do, by getting the best out of the likes of Ross Barkley, Gerard Deulofeu, Kevin Morales, getting Funes Mori to stop trying to play football and just defend. Jagielka similar. Get Seamus Coleman back on his game. Leighton Baines is fit again. Already, we're going through them kind of positions and things like that. There's players like Tom Davis and Dowell in there. So already, I believe Everton will start climbing up the table anyway. So expectation level, why should we lower it? We should be excited.
But don't you think that plays into part of the problem though? Because I don't have massive expectations for this season in terms of about getting carried away about what we're going to do this season, because I think it's a time. I understand what you're saying, because you're giving me a nasty look, but I understand what you're saying. I do think just by his methods will take the team up, but I think those methods will take time to settle in. He wants a pressing game. He wants defenders to defend, but I at Barnsley, I could still see that after a few weeks of him training, that those things are not necessarily ingrained in people. But what I'm saying is that and that'll take longer because there might have to be changes at the club. He might have to bring new players in, but he will have to bring new players in. He might have to he's going to have to replace certain individuals. The pressing game's not going to happen straight away. You're not going to get a and then he's going to even if it does, there's going to be players who fall into it very easily, and there's going to be players who it's not part of their natural game.
But it depends what your expectation levels are, don't they? If you're saying should the expectations be so high, how high? I look at Everton and I think anywhere between 4th and
forget
10th.
No, hang on.
For me that's the expectation level.
Forget about where we're going to finish because it's a long season.
So what define what?
What I'm saying is, should fans be out there at the moment complaining that we haven't signed anyone? Because the way I look at it is that I look at it from the outside and I think this is a new manager come in. He's been training with a group of players for 3 weeks. He hasn't even got all his players back. Because some people are on holiday playing basketball against
now, isn't he?
Top international footballers. No, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So he wants to give everyone in this squad a fair crack of the whip before he brings anyone in, and he hasn't sold anyone either. So that sort of puts the whole thing, together. Because if we'd sold players and hadn't bought players, then I'd be worried. But he's giving everyone a crack of the whip. He's having a look at every single player. He's looking at what he needs. We might see a position and go, we need to strengthen that position. Now he might be looking at a player. Now take Tom Davis for instance. We're looking at him going, we need a new right back. He's looking at him going, I'll give him 3 or 4 games, see how he gets on at right back. If he's good, then I don't need to bring a right back in. If he's not good, then I do need to bring a new right back in. You know what I mean? He's looking at all the positions on the pitch and going, the answer's already at the club.
Right, so your opening question needed to be more specific.
It didn't because for the virtues of the video, I've expanded as I've gone along.
I know, but
you'd have answered that question straight away and made this video only 2 minutes long.
No, I wouldn't, because you give me the wrong expectations. Ask me about expectations for the season.
No.
If you're talking about expectation levels of what's going on right now, I think what's going on right now, people are getting very, very wound up, very irate, very negative. I've seen people saying we haven't got any money, we have to sell to buy, and all of everything else, because people are getting frantic. The problem with that is, like we said on the video we done a couple of weeks ago, was that when you're trying to buy the next level of player, it's not the same as buying Aidan McGeady. We could have had 5 Aidan McGeadys in through the door, wouldn't it change? Yeah. So expectation of having loads of money, of buying loads of players, of doing this and doing that, it takes time for all the reasons you've just said. He's coming in to a squad that he knows very little about, really, other than what he's seen and when we've come up against them. He doesn't know about Tom Davis, like you said. He doesn't know about Callum Connolly, Conor Grant, Kieran Dowell, these kind of players. He doesn't know what's underneath that.
Isn't there?
There is. Doesn't, underneath that, he doesn't know what's happening there.
Coney
there as well. We called a lot of cuts last season. A lot of them were. But so he's got to assess that, because there's no point wasting 25 million on something when you've got it, but you just haven't seen it. So there is all of that going on, and underneath that, they've been getting a director of football in,
which is a big
getting
thing.
Him into place, which will make a difference. Coming in with his targets as well, trying to sort that side out, as well as looking at 1, 2, 3 and 4 positions, and that's what it's about at the moment. So the expectation level at the moment is you want signings. I think if Everton announced a signing, say an Axel Witsel, that name, I hate the name now, it just annoys me. But if that was to come off, then everyone would probably settle down and go, there's the first one.
But should it take a signing to settle it down? No. Because, like, for all those reasons you've just said, take the Jared Delafeu thing on Saturday. He comes in and everyone goes, Jared Delafeu play up front. He has, and then suddenly you start thinking, well, hang on. Do you know what I mean? We spoke about it, we need this and we need that, we need a striker who can do this. And you go, hang on, no, I thought it's fresh eyes looking at all these players and going, do you know what? I look at him and his strengths are this, this and this. Why don't we play him in this position? Why don't we play this lad in this position? We've got, so many centre midfielders who can do. It's like Bessage, right? I mean, Bessage How many people did he surprise last season when he came back into the side? People had written him off. Comes into the side. Next minute, not only is he snapping at people's heels, but you see the other side, you see the flip side, you see his attacking prowess. You see him, against West Ham, how good he was. And you're thinking, now he might come in and the first thing he might think is, he's a cracking attacking midfielder. He might even recognise, or he might just go, he's a brilliant box-to-box. He's got everything in his locker. We're not going to hamper him by saying, just sit in front of the back four. And I think that's what some people need to just remember, is that this is a process that won't happen straight away. This is the reason why I think a lot of Liverpool fans are excited by Jurgen Klopp, is that because they've had that bedding in period over the season where there was no expectations, and yet he got them to 2 cup finals. And now this is where it starts. This is where he's evaluated his squad in real time within a season. We don't have that luxury, so it's almost like some players you will have to evaluate them in real time, which means during the season. So the process will be ongoing during the season.
Of course it will, but also he's mindful, and I'm mindful that he doesn't really stay anywhere very long. So he'll want to. And listen, it might be different here with a different project and a lot of money. He might see it long term. If Barcelona don't come knocking, he might think, I'm enjoying this here, and let's hope that happens. And if Barcelona do come knocking, it's because he's done very, very well.
Good things happening.
But it will be assessed, but it'll also, he does have to make some snap decisions as well, because I just see one going with the other, and I just think the team will be good enough to go forward as it is, and yet you're right, he will have to make decisions about other players, and there might be a solution to a problem already within this squad just by moving somebody about. But you're always going to get people who are impatient just because history dictates that they're impatient of what we've been used to for the last 15 years, say, of always giving it the eye, looking through the window around the transfer market and not fully being able to get involved. This year we can, but we still haven't been able to go in.
I fully understand why it's actually worse this year, because we do seem to have a lot of money. Or we seem to have money, and there's all the other things that are going on. Obviously, there's a lot of, we can talk about the idea of new ground, and obviously we've seen the pictures of, Mashiri and Bill Kenwright and Anderson and stuff, and you can understand all that. It builds up into the same thing. It's, as a fan, you're like, yes, this is brilliant. We've got an owner, he's got money, and you want that end result of it, because you see all the clubs spend the money, whether it be justified or not, on players, and you think, I just want a bit of that excitement. But I said this last week.
It's got to be tempered.
I said this last week on a video. It's about, I think what we're doing really well in this summer is we're building something, but we're putting the foundations in place first. Yeah. But it's not built on sand. It's not built on something that can be pulled away. There are foundations being laid under that. A new manager, director of football, which could be the biggest thing of all.
She's gonna got them out the champions.
Yeah. It could be the biggest thing out of all. It could be something that is something that lasts for a long time, and that's really important. And we know there's talks about new ground, so those things are really important, and I think they're the things people should focus on more than anything.
They are, but you want to sprinkle.
Of course you do. Of course you do. Of course, you don't want to feel like you're being left behind. But I also think that. The transfer window doesn't help, because you feel like that you've been pressured into something, like there's a time limit on it.
Yeah.
Which in years gone past that wouldn't be there, because you could go and keep buying during the season. So there is a time limit. It's a blessing, but it's also, for the last few years, how many times we were like, shut the window. With this, we're like, no. So yes, I understand why people want players, but I also think there is a need to
take a step back and look what's been achieved so far. That's what
I think this week is massive. There'll be 4 games in the space of 7 days, and I think that is a massive marker to evaluate the squad. That is key. That is a key period for him to be able to see everybody probably twice, maybe, and anyone who doesn't see twice, he'll know. Some like Lukaku. Lukaku might play one game, over the weekend. Might play Saturday, let's say. He doesn't need to establish that he's a top centre forward. He knows he's a top centre forward. But for other players who are maybe he's not sure about, and then he can establish. And also, if players are not available through injury, maybe he might just have to bite the bullet and say, well, if I can't see you, I have to bring someone in. I have to make a decision. And if I'm not 100% sure of a player, someone like James McCarthy. If James McCarthy doesn't play this week, then maybe he does have to say, well, maybe he's already made that decision. I need another player in there. So I think it's definitely going to pick up pace, but I think people just have to temper. And I also think the other reason for that as well is that his methods are not just going to bed in straight away. You know what I mean? I think that's another reason. It's going to be a process during the season where, okay, new players are one thing, but the style is another thing.
Yeah, well, it's so hard to look ahead because there's still so many things that are going to be. There's X, Y, and Z to come in, isn't there? And different ways of playing and different variables where it's difficult to make any assessments at the minute because it's still the 3 weeks into pre-season and we've got no new additions other than Stekelenburg. So, a couple will go out, a few will come in, and then we'll know where we are probably, in a few more weeks. But it's going well, like you've just said. The director of football, the grounds, something's happening at the stadium. We've got a new manager in place. We know that we're negotiating with players, so everything's moving forward. Everton are moving forward for the first time in about 30 years. That's the reality.
And we're being linked with about 8 million players as well. I think someone said to me the other day we've been linked with 220 players so far this pre-season. And that just shows you. Because when you get linked with players, you know there's money. Because those links normally come from the agents.
Yeah.
And the agents are throwing players at the club and saying, how about looking at him, how about looking at him? And so I think if we weren't being linked with anyone, then you'd have a right to panic. Yeah. But I think the fact that we're being linked with every single player out there, or agents are trying to push players towards us, it's just the other thing. I think people don't underestimate how that works, that a lot of these players will be getting pushed on us, not the other way around.
That's it, exactly. So, you look at Wijnaldum saying, I waited for Everton's interest, but I had to sign for Liverpool, because basically, even though someone tried to spin it as he'd chosen Liverpool over Everton, now he was saying I wanted Everton to come in. He ended up going there, and we are getting dragged into conversations that we're probably not even having, and that's the reality.
Because that's the reality of how people see us now.
Because we're massive. To us, we are.
Yeah. Anyway, so, tell us what you think. What do you expect this season? Are you like Baz and think we're going to win everything? Or... or you like me who thinks just take a step back and let's just process, just go through the season and just develop as we go on. It'll be better. Listen, it'll be better straight away. But tell us what you think in the comments. Let us know. Catch you later. Toffee TV.